Hi, I'm Ling,
Hi, I'm Jace.
and welcome to the Freelance Creative Exchange, where every episode we talk about freelancing and the gig economy.
And today we have a very special guest. For the first time in our podcast series, we actually had esports gamers here with us.
Yes, let's welcome Lysander.
Hey guys.
So Lysander is actually known as an in-game esports host, as well as the producers and the host of the nightly show.
Yep.
Right.
So, Lysander, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and how you do what you do?
Alright guys, so I am a esports commentator slash host. So I MC for mainly esports events, but I can also do non-gaming events. But mostly I try to do gaming events because it's my passion. And I have a startup that produces a late night show for esports called The Nightly Show. So that's what you mentioned. And I not only produce it, I'm also the host because it's something I really enjoy. It's a platform where we interview people in the gaming industry, whether they are players, they are professionals, or team owners. So we just want to explore the world of gaming and give content creators in gaming a chance to grow in a real world setting.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you first get into this whole e-gaming thing? In that sense?
Well, I got into gaming ever since I was 6. My dad showed me PC. He's like, hey, here's a game. Played it and I was like, okay. I was ever since then I was hooked, and it just progressed from there. And then I think 2011, I think that's when esports started like showing its head through StarCraft, StarCraft 2. And I watched one tournament one day on YouTube. It was like a VOD of a StarCraft tournament that happened in Sweden. And it was a very exciting, tense final. And just watching that for a few hours, I was like, wow, this is something I want to get into. And it was only 2 years later I got an opportunity when there was a small talent search in Chinatown. Yeah, it was more like I think it was a company just doing more of like a community outreach kind of PR kind of thing, where they say, oh, we're looking for community shoutcasters. And I was like, what the hell, I just went for it, and I won. And from there, I don't want to bore you guys with details, but I just managed to use that to name drop my way up all the way. And in 2014, I got the opportunity to commentate at the International 2014, the Dota 2 International Championship. So that was a very big highlight in my event. And then unfortunately, I had to take 2 years off for army. But during that time, I tried my best to stay up to stay in the scene, network where I can. Where I had to leave, I can try and travel to events. But basically that's how I got into it, and I still am now.
But that's still very interesting because you managed to, you're one of the ones who, at a very young age, even before NS, you managed to get your name over there somehow or another. But do you also remember, what kind of game? You say you started at 6, right? You started gaming at 6. What game was it that you started?
I remember it was called War Games. It was a movie. I think it was a very old movie. It's about the AI that went rogue. And I think it has a very iconic line. It's like, shall we play a game? If you guys remember, I don't know. It's like a very old movie.
I remember the name, the line, but I don't remember the game.
So it came from that movie, and then there was this game that that my dad introduced to me, because my dad was a big sci-fi geek as well. So he just introduced that to me, and then from there, we just started playing. Then all the strategy games. Back then, strategy games were a big thing, like Command and Conquer and all that stuff. So started playing those, and then StarCraft, of course, classic. And then I think there was this phase of MapleStory and RuneScape, like everyone else, and then moved on to more modern games like Dota and Counter-Strike.
So in Singapore, right, because I think, Singapore children grows up going to schools and a lot of, schoolworks and things like that. So does your parents at any point in time feels that you shouldn't be playing games, you should focus more of your energy in the study?
Did your dad ever regret introducing you to gaming?
I think that has always been a very good advocate of gaming. He's always said like gaming helps your problem solving. He's always that cool dad. Because secretly he likes playing games as well. So, but mom is more traditional. I think mom was always like you know, gaming is no. She initially she hated gaming with a passion, like an Asian mom would, and then she started saying, okay, fine, I can't get the kid to quit, so I'm just going to subtly mention that you know you should play it in moderation. But then you know when I decided to take it full time, she obviously was not like very like okay, this is just a phase kind of thing. And then I started showing her like the paychecks that I got, like these aren't just joke numbers, you know, like you can actually make some money if you put your heart into it, if you know where to maximize on your skill set. It doesn't matter it's gaming, you can still, you know, work. You know, just cause you're enjoying yourself doesn't mean that it can't be a job.
Yeah, that's
I think
right.
that is something she started getting over time, but she has always been more of like a just be cautious, you know, because this is volatile and not stable. So, you know, there's always that part of her that says maybe college degree isn't that, you know, go back to college, but yeah.
My mom still says that. She still forwards me on Facebook, oh, go and study at this course and this course. But so over the years, right, you know, e-gaming wasn't such a huge thing in the past. Maybe it was because of technology, maybe just not so many people were playing it. But did you ever foresee it becoming what it is right now? Like, it is a huge thing, you know, like even governments have to change their policies in terms of letting people into the country, the visas and stuff, of allowing e-gamers to come in to play sports. They recognize it as sports. So yeah, did you see where it was going?
I mean I wouldn't want to claim credit and say like, oh yeah, I foresaw this, but I definitely knew that this is something that had a lot of potential. Back when I joined, I got like the big gigs in 2014. I was like, wow, this is gonna be massive one day. And I told my parents like, I'm very lucky to be able to enter at the ground level, because when it's more developed like now, it's a lot harder to get into the scene. Which is why always whenever I give interviews, people ask me like, oh, how can people be the next you? And I was like, oh, that's a little bit too much, because I think I was there at the right time with the right set of skills. And even if you do the same thing now, there's no guarantee that you get the same results, because it is that saturated in terms of people wanting to enter, and there's not enough space. So that's why I'm trying to grow more pie, I guess, with my project.
So, how long were you freelancing before you started a company, or actually you went straight to setting up your companies?
I actually freelance, and I still do,
Okay.
actually, for about 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah, so since I was 20, well, not 6 years, about 5 years.
About 5
yeah,
years.
about 5 years. And it is, I mean, the first event that I went to, I got hired to do the international. I think that was my first big gig where I got an actual paycheck after the fact. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of zeros. And I'm like, and then the first thing I thought was like, yeah, I'm going to show this to my mom, because I was like, wow, mom, this is something that you should see, because you know, your son got a fully paid trip to Seattle and got paid for doing like video games, right? And I think the first thing that came to my mind wasn't like, oh, how am I going to spend it? It was more like validation. So that was something that proved to mom kind of that I should definitely pursue this. I think dad was also happy to have like some proof that he was right.
Yeah.
That gaming has its uses. But then over time, the same thing every freelancer goes through, which is, I think in Singapore especially, there's a lot of undercutting for talents. There's a lot of people that say, oh, we don't have the budget, so take it or leave it, or exposure, the good old exposure. So there's all that. But I always felt that if I'm as one of the more senior people in esports, if I accept these low undercut rates, then what are the newcomers going to face, right? Because they're going to say like, Lysander's been this and he takes this, so who are you to demand this? So I always think from that perspective. It sounds very like I know it sounds kind of like holier than thou kind of thing, but I feel like that should be the case. And I always feel very sad when my fellow juniors, I would call them, get undercut or are forced to work for less than nothing. I think it's not right, because what we do is very hard to achieve, because it takes a lot of practice and
it takes a lot of knowledge as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of study required, and the fact that you pay someone less than McDonald's does, then it's just not acceptable. So that's always been my stance. And my company, the talk show, is meant to bring awareness to this situation. So I bring awareness by talking about it, by making fun content, but also by leading with examples. So I want content creators to work under my team to build content, and we want them to be compensated fairly. That's the goal here.
Yeah.
That's cool. So So just to let people know who are very interested in getting into the gaming industry, what does it take to join the team then?
Well, the funny thing is, sometimes it works when we meet you, we like you right away. That works, you know. Just with everything else, I think being sometimes there's that luck and like that affinity.
Yeah.
But if you want to apply us, you know, the cold way, or I guess is that the word? Yeah. So if you want to just apply to us, and we don't know anything about you, drop us an email. We will send you a very unique questionnaire with some questions about yourself, but also about gaming knowledge, memes, because we want someone that knows how to have fun, that gets our humor, and
Definitely.
yeah. So we strive for some certain level of quality. So and then then we'll try and gauge them based on the answers they give us. It's not so much the answers, but the type of answers, the way that it's answered. It's very hard to get into. It's kind of like a company secret, but yeah, that's how I found my initial team. I got them through this entire, like, it's a very strange questionnaire if you look at it. And then, those that I think are cool, I'll call them in for an interview and I'll talk to them for about half an hour. And from there, we'll see if they're right for the team. Yeah.
Do you have any, like, is it, I don't know, because maybe for me, right, I've never been a gamer as much. I think the most I went to was like MapleStory because it was cute. But do you actually need to, as you mentioned, do a lot of study before you step into any job, be it commentator or, you know, you're going to interview someone on your show as well? How much amount of actual knowledge piling is there?
Well, which one do you want answered? Because commentator has one, host has one, and talk show has another one.
Commentator.
Okay, so as a commentator, if you listen to the Olympics or any kind of basketball or soccer match, you'll have commentators, right? And commentators need to know everything because they literally got to be that. So imagine when Avengers Endgame came about, right? You have a few of your friends that say like, oh yeah, this theory and that, you know, their eyes will be super big and then they're like telling you this and that. You got to be that guy for gaming because your job as a commentator is to tell people what to be excited about.
Yeah.
And if you don't know things with the back of your hand, it's very difficult. So you got to know everyone that's in the game, everything that's in the game, what are the possibilities in the game, because just like with everything, the passion will come through. Like if you're excited, it's like, guys, you have to look out 10 minutes, there's going to be this, it's going to happen, that people get excited. It's the same thing for commentators. So there's a lot of study involved, and it's not a overnight cram kind of thing. It's more of like I've watched 5 seasons of this show, so I'm ready to tell you what happens season 6. I'm ready for all the theories. It's not something you can cram overnight, which is why I feel like they deserve a fair pay.
So do you have
It's a
to
tough job.
play all the games yourself as well?
Yeah, actually, most commentators are specialized, I would say. They are either locked into one game. So if you're a Dota commentator, most of the time you are only a Dota commentator. But in more modern times, people have adapted to survive. So they've spread out to do 1 or 2 genres. So if they do Dota, they might also do some shooter games like PUBG, Counter-Strike. So but usually you have like an alignment because you have to go very deep to understand a game well. And even if you want to just be a little bit like medium and everything, you still have to do quite a considerable amount of study. So yeah, there is quite a bit of learning involved. But most of the times people come in to commentating already liking the games that they'll be doing. So it's not too bad. But there is a formula, I guess. Once you cast long enough, there is kind of like a formula how to cast everything with enough lead time to study. So like for me, I can do it. I can do any game if I get like a week to play it beforehand.
So currently, what game are you playing?
Oh, that's a very difficult question to answer. I think it's like you're asking me like what kind of ice cream you're eating now. It's like I don't really know. I just eat ice cream. I can't really give you an answer. There's a lot of games that I play. I play all the popular games that are coming out, that are out, and I always try and keep up to date with everything. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Will you be like the YouTubers where you will be given special treatments from the developers of the games to say, hey, you know, we want you to
Before
try out
launch
this.
kind
Yeah,
of
correct.
thing.
Before launch.
I really wish I could do that, but that is usually for influencers and journalists, and I think I am not that person yet. But I would love to do that because early access feels cool, and it's a very big advantage when it comes to creating content. I do get early access for certain games that because I have worked with the company before, but not every game.
Okay.
So in your line of work, you also travel, a bit, right? So from the experience that you gain from traveling, and also, the industry out there, how does it actually shape your, I would say, your skill in terms of e-sport commentators, as well as growing your company that focuses in the esports in Singapore?
So how does traveling?
How does your overseas experience, rather, not so much travel?
All right. Okay. I think that's a good question. I think that when traveling, especially in the West, I get to see the success story. I just say that the esports scene in the West is a lot more stable. They have better structure. They have proper organizations that pay their players. They have better incentives. They have platforms to showcase talents. And that is kind of like seeing what the end game could be for us. We are more in the growing stages. In Asia, Southeast Asia, I wouldn't say Asia because Korea and China are good, but we don't count that. So in Southeast Asia, it's very fragmented. Like everyone's doing their own thing. There is no proper structure. There's a bit of there are talks of corruption and all that. So it's not stable. And but looking at it in the West, I always see like what it could be. So I try to think like, okay, how can I shape it this way here in Asia? I mean, of course, taking into account Asian cultures and everything, but still the end game's the same. If this can be achieved in the West, we have the amount of funds here as well. It's just about getting the right resources to get it there. So I try and reverse engineer it. So like, how do I get to this point? But having something to work towards is very important. If there was no example, I might give up, because like maybe this is hopeless kind of thing. So traveling abroad does open up your eyes when it comes to these things.
In terms of the gamers, is there a difference between gamers in Southeast Asia versus gamers in the States, or even gamers from China, right? Because esports is very big in China. So is there a difference in terms of the gamers around this few regions?
I think Southeast Asians gamers. Okay, when you say gamers, do you mean the professional players, like the pro gamers, or do you just mean the normal people that play games?
I think right now we probably want to focus more on the pro gamers.
Okay, so pro gamers here, I would say I can't really speak for every country in Southeast Asia, but I'll say in Singapore at the very least, a lot of them might feel very jaded. I think there are a few very good examples that are good success stories, but most of the times a lot of organizations in Southeast Asia have been reported to undercut a lot of their players because these guys have no other choice, so they just go on and then they get poor contracts, and also there's not enough support for them. There are no platforms for them to grow as personalities, because most of the time a professional player in the West is very popular for either his skill or his personality. So sometimes you don't have to be super good. You just have to be a pro, but be entertaining to watch on your live stream. People watch your live stream. People like you as a personality, and that's how you get known from the sea of pros. But here in Southeast Asia, I think our major lacking point is that we don't. Our players don't have media training, so they don't look like icons. They just look like nerds that play at a LAN cafe, which is not the right branding, because this is a chicken egg problem, right? In the West, you have pro teams that look like ANF models. Like they have the clean shaves, they're media trained, so they give good interviews. And then here we have guys walking on stage with, like in their slippers. It's getting less bad, but it's a real problem. Like, I'm not trying to diss anybody, but it is a real problem when it comes to sponsors. Like someone like Nike or Under Armour is not going to sponsor a guy with like a mop of hair. Like, he doesn't look like an athlete. Like when you say the word e-athlete, you gotta look the part, right? You gotta look like an athlete. You gotta look clean. You gotta look fresh. And without sponsors, a lot of your money is not gonna happen. So it's like a chicken egg. Without money, there's no incentive to play better. Then there's no incentive to play better. There's no that whole vicious cycle. So there needs to be someone that steps in and says like, okay, let's clean up our guys. Let's maybe send them to the gym a little bit. Playing games all the time isn't good. So we need to have a little bit of a work-life balance. Teach them to answer better interviews. Some teams have started doing that, but not quick enough. I think locally we have a team called Resurgence. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. They are Singapore's biggest esports team, and they have 8 esports teams over 8 different games.
Wow.
So
Okay.
they're pretty well funded. Their owner Jave is a very good friend of mine, and he's also has very similar vision, and he has taken the same steps, use our own money to put the footprint in the ground first,
Yeah.
and like guys follow suit,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And he's done that to a much larger scale than I have. He has more resources, but our goals are very similar, in the sense that we're going to take action first, so that hopefully people see the example and follow suit. So
Actually sounds like really exciting.
yeah, you should definitely talk to them. They're doing something really good for gaming in Singapore.
So with the nightly show, is that something that you started to also help in this direction as well?
Yeah.
Basically, give more personality to all the individuals in the gaming scene.
Correct. Yeah, like I said, in the West, there are 3 things, right? They have stable organizations, they have a platform to feature content creators, and lastly, they have good incentives. Because in the West, you can actually make a full living just doing this.
Yeah.
Like proper living, no questions asked. It's like way better money than a normal job actually. So that like this is good enough money to say, why am I studying? Like I'm gonna ditch and do this because I'm good at this. Here, not so much. So organizations, I can do that, but not to a large scale. That requires a lot of resources to throw a team. So like I said, Resurgence does that. But personalities, I think it's very important because a lot of times there's a complaint like, oh, why aren't local people getting love? But because the real fact is local people aren't good enough. Like the Western influencers, content creators are better. So people are just going to watch them. But I want to offer our local creators a way to learn. And I know there are a lot of lessons out there, but there's only so much you can learn in a classroom. So I rather create this talk show, build like a real world context, right? Because I invite guests, famous live streamers in. I pull on my old strings, to get famous people onto the show, gaming influencers. And it allows those content creators working with me to mingle with them. Obviously there's a little bit of networking. There's also a little bit of like from their viewer base transferring to ours. There's also learning the strategies of how to be a better live streamer, better creator. So this is the real world setting kind of thing, right? Doing a live production, doing all these things, interviews, is practice that you don't get in a classroom.
That's true. So along the way, right? I mean, you tried out so many things, and you are definitely braver than we are. We are a long way from going live stream in any of this.
But viewers out there, if you want to see us live stream, maybe
Do
you
let
can
us
leave a
know.
comment.
But you know what? Just as a learning point for people who want to come into the industry, be it in esports or being a freelancer or being a commentator and talk show host, what are some of the challenges that you made, or can you share some of the mistakes that you have gone through throughout this whole journey?
Mistakes, definitely. Everyone has gone through a lot of it. I think one of my regrets is, I think, getting shot to fame a little too young. I think not. Like a lot, I think none of us will be prepared for this. When you suddenly get a lot of high-level people that you've only seen in, I don't know, it's like on the red carpet kind of thing, or like VIP areas, suddenly becoming very chummy with you. It's very hard to keep track of who's your friend and whatnot. You start to get lost. So it's very hard to keep everyone in your life because you keep getting new handshakes, new people like, wanting to know you because you're the new in thing. So back then when I did in 2014 when I did the job in Seattle, it was one of the best moments of my life, but it was also a very humbling moment because I realized I could have been nicer to some people that I've known last time. And it's not that I was just snobby, I didn't like snub them or like hate on them. It's just they got left behind because I didn't know how to control all the attention I was getting, and I just reached for the brightest and the newest things because like, oh wow, this person wants to talk to me, and I didn't have time for the people that I used to know, and that part of me, I always regretted that because I was too young to handle all that, and so now when my second bout of fame comes by, I think I'll be better at handling it. I think. And of course the other thing is working in gaming. I always compare it to working in an ice cream shop. It's really fun, but it's also very dangerous because you end up eating ice cream. So you could get lost.
So speaking about that, how do you balance this out? Because there's such this thin line, right, between work, professionalism, and actual enjoyment of you can get sucked into just playing games. I guess that's how you get into an industry anyway, by the passion, with the passion that you have for the industry, right? But or maybe you can share with us your usual, what's your day to day? How do you actually balance it?
I don't like the day-to-day question because there are some days I just like, yep, I wasted this day playing games. But you know, that's what buffer days are for. But I think one very good trick I do is the cliche one, of course, is set clear goals. That's the cliche answer. I think setting goals is very important because it kind of guilt trips you. When you have a goal set in mind, it guilt trips you to do something eventually. But the other thing is also kind of broadcasting your goal to a team. So having a team, my team supports me in the fact that if I drop the ball, they're gonna like, okay, so what's up? You know, you promised us this week, so what's the brief? And if I don't have the brief prepared, I'm like, I'm the idiot because I huddled these people. These people believe in my dream, and if I screw it up in front of them, then it looks bad. So I kind of guilt trip myself into doing things. And another trick is, of course, to do little things. So if you feel lazy, just do something small, and then eventually you'll do a lot more. Once you do a little bit of this, you're like, yeah, that wasn't so bad. Do something small again.
Like, yes, small successes.
Yes,
right?
it's I think the term is no 0 days. So don't have a day where you do nothing. Yeah, just do something.
That's
Absolutely.
yeah. Maybe I should start doing that too.
So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I hope to have shaped the landscape of esports in Asia. And I know it's a very vague term, but definitely one. I think the best way I can describe a success on my part would be, if you remember the influencer craze back in 2012, 2013, you know, back when all the girls, girls mostly in Singapore started going for this influencer career, right?
Really?
Yeah, I mean now it's a real career. In the past, it was seen as like it's a joke. This girl's just pretty. She's getting sponsors, but now it's a full career. Girls actually make a full-time living being an influencer, and this job came out of nowhere, and it was because there were right incentives, there was social acceptance, and I think I can do the same for esports. So that's what I want to do. Like when down the road, 5 years, you know, people say, "Oh, so what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm in esports. I'm a content creator in esports. I'm a pro gamer." There will not be a judging look. There will be like, "Oh, damn, you must be living a good life." That should be the impression, and that's what I aim to do. Yeah.
So what's your perspective though of being a freelance, bringing it back to the freelance industry, right? What's your perspective of being that independent professional in general?
What's my perspective?
Yeah.
I think it's the same as every other freelancer. It's always worry that you don't get enough jobs. There's always that worry when you're quoting a client that you're too expensive, you know, or maybe I didn't quote enough. You know, there's always that worry when it comes to that. Not knowing your worth, I think. Even though when you have a lot of like credentials to back it up, it's always like it's kind of like comments, right? Online comments. You read 10 good ones, doesn't matter, but one bad one really messes you up. So whenever you get rejected for a job, it's very hard to accept that it was just that you're not what they were looking for. It's not that you're bad, but yeah, sometimes it's just it's a very harrowing experience. So definitely not for the faint-hearted, I think. Freelancing sounds like a good deal, being your own boss, but it's very hard to stay motivated if you hustle alone.
I'm just curious because you're so young, right? So surrounding you, your friends, do you see more of them choosing freelancing as a career, or there are actually more full-timers around?
I think it's a mix of both. I'm friends with influencers, YouTubers, so those are the freelancers, the graphic designers. Then I know the people that are just happy with a full-time job, complaining about their bosses. So I really can't give a fair answer to this. Yeah, it is. It's only my perspective, so I don't think it's a.
So for people the young ones who are trying to get into this industry, then what advice can you give them if you really? I think again, it comes down to you gotta really like what you're doing. Like you gotta ask yourself, are you doing this cause you wanna play games or cause you really enjoy playing games? You gotta be realistic with yourself as well. Not too realistic, but you gotta be realistic with yourself. Am I cut out for example, if you wanna be a broadcast talent, are you good at speaking to the camera? If you're not, maybe it's time to work on that.
or do something else, because there are a lot of roles in esports, not just on-screen talent. So sometimes it looks flashy, like I want to be a movie star, but it's not so easy to act. So maybe I'll be a camera operator instead. You know, I want to work in Hollywood. There are a lot of things to do in Hollywood. Same thing for esports. You can be a lawyer, you can be a team manager, you can be a cook. There are a lot of things you can do. Like don't just think of esports as, oh, I had to be a pro or a caster, I'm done, you know, kind of thing. And I think this is a mindset that also needs to be changed. A lot of people, they say, Mom, I want to be in esports, and then Mom will say, oh, are you the next ninja? And then you don't have that answer for that, and then like, okay, maybe I won't be, you know. But they have to understand, like, I'm studying business, for like they say, like the kid, for example, they're studying business. They could be a business owner in esports. It's because they love the game that makes them suitable to be a business owner in esports or a marketer in esports. Because you gotta get gaming to work in gaming. I think that is the key goal. Like a lot of main problems now in esports is because a lot of companies coming in don't understand the gaming world, and they just think, oh, this is just gonna be like every consumer in the world. We have done this for years, and then they get a little complacent when it comes to the gaming scene. And gamers are very discerning when it comes to sellouts. So genuine companies benefit the most from gamer loyalty, and that's why companies need to hire gamer focused people, like gaming focused people.
That's actually great advice, because I want to get into filmmaking actually, and the first thing that I want to be an actress. That didn't happen.
But now you can still try to be an influencer. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Please like.
Yeah. Right. But thank you so much, Lysander. Thank you for all the sharing. I mean, we understand the esport industry a bit better. We wish you all the best, right? But before we let you go, right, we have one last question that we ask all our guests in our podcast. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeli, would you like to ask the question?
So, if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Wow.
Although you're still very young.
Younger. But yeah, I would say, I don't know. The cheeky part of me would just say, like, you know, tell me about Bitcoin or something. But I think it's very similar to what I said about the fame thing. Learning to I wish someone was there to tell me, like, okay, this thing's gonna hit you really hard, so make sure you have a stable foundation to better utilize this. Like I think I know. Like, I didn't capitalize well on my fame when I got it back in when I was 21. So I got really popular in gaming at 21, and I really should have used that before I went to the army. But I let army depress me, I think. Made me really sad, and I got really resentful, and I didn't really capitalize on that fame. I could have been a lot further than I am now if I had capitalized on the fame back then, because the numbers, the viewers that I had in the past were so good in today's context. Like, I should have really capitalized on that, but I didn't realize the value back then. It's just like Bitcoin. It's like, I didn't really realize it, so I let it go, and now I think about it like, crap. So I could be working a lot less now if I didn't mess up last time. Yeah.
But I'm sure you'll get it back. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's a learning experience, I guess. It shapes you. It makes you more humble.
I like that you bring that out though, because as girls, we can't quite bring that up because we don't have that same experience. But NS tends to bring a lot of boys down, just for the fact that they have this in my mind. I'm going to lose 2 years of my life. But like you said, there are ways to take that and put it into advantage.
But we also see a lot of males becoming more mature after NS, right?
That's
so
true.
that's why they say it's our boys to men lah, right? Well, but anyway, thank you so much, Lysander. Thanks for sharing, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Freelance Creative Exchange.
So if you enjoyed the show, please do click on the like button or leave us a comment.
Subscribe and hit the bell button so you won't miss out on our next interview.
So until then, bye!
Bye!
See ya.